doing anime tier list again, and this time we're doing a tier list for the 2024 romance anime. As usual, S tier means everything was perfect and the anime was godly. A tier means the anime is really good and stood out from the rest. B tier means the anime is good, nothing special. C tier means it's average, and F tier means the anime is so bad it made me question my life choices. As always, this is my personal opinion and yours might differ, so don't start World War III in the comments section. We're going from alphabetical order, so let's go. Two and a Half Dimensional Seduction. This is once again about a guy meeting a girl who likes to cosplay. The only difference is how the guy likes duty girls. I like to call this the budget My Dress Up Darling, but honestly, somewhere in the middle, the show stands on its own 2 feet. It's nothing special, but it's worth watching, so this anime is for the B tier. 365 days to the wedding. It's really hard to do adult workplace romances well, because most of the time it's watched by teenagers who are about to go into the workplace. But this anime did it really well. It deals with some situations in a mature way while also keeping a very wholesome tone throughout the show. This goes to the B tier. 7th time loop, the villainess enjoys a carefree life married to her worst enemy. Time travel alone feels done to death already, but a story with a villainess and time travel? No, that's new. I'm not a huge fan of the whole villainous trope, so when I say I enjoyed it, you should watch it. The main character sometimes feels too perfect, but the romance was done really well. This goes to the A tier. A condition called love. I really enjoyed the first few episodes of this show, but the relationship between the two characters is a love or hate thing for me. Shoujo anime was never good with male leads, but I was at least expecting something better from this one. But it's still a lot better than the regular shoujo shows I watch, but it's also nothing too special, so this goes to the C tier. A Sign of Affection. I'm really happy this came after A Condition Called Love, because this is how you do shoujo anime right. We have a hearing impaired girl and a boy who decides to help her, and each episode of this season was short, sweet, and wholesome. Since the main girl has hearing issues, the way the couple overcomes the barriers of their relationship is what makes this really interesting. Seriously, shoujo doesn't get any more perfect than this, so this goes to the S tier. Alya sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. Oh, come on, we got a Russian tsundere hiding her feelings in Russian. Well, the guy who she is hiding her feelings from knows Russian. Apart from the unique premise, this show really shined with its characters. Alya, Yuki, and Maria, all of these were perfect characters that could keep you hooked throughout the episode. Obviously S tier. An Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride. Last year, us elf bros were winning really hard, but if you ever needed a romance between an elf and a socially anxious demon lord, this is the show for you. Once again, the character is still the spotlight, and the comedy here is right on track, so I'm gonna put this to B tier. Astro Note. The living together trope has been done a lot, and the living together with an alien trope has been done a lot too. I wouldn't be even picking this up if it wasn't the wholesome romance, so even if the tropes are cliche, the romance kept me watching it, so this goes to the C tier. ATRI, My Dear Moments. This is based on a heavily acclaimed visual novel, so obviously it's gonna be good. Once again, the romance was what kept me hooked, even when the whole anime started with one guy going to find a treasure. This goes to the B tier. Banished from the Heroes Party Season 2. I think we all know the plot by now. One guy gets kicked off the Heroes Party, finds a nice girl, and settles down. Now, that all happens last season. This season struggles to find tension among the episodes. So it introduces new girls and makes the main girl jealous. You know, the good old stuff. Since this wasn't as original as the first season, I'm going to put it to C tier. Blue Box. Like I've always said, sports and romance are two of the hardest genres to mix in, but somehow the writers of this show managed to make a shy badminton guy fall for a popular basketball girl. And they did it well. They did it well because they balanced the sports and romance really well. So this straight up goes to the A tier. Bottom tier, character Tomozaki Season 2. I've always mentioned the original Tomozaki-kun as one of my favorites. It can really make you feel related to Tomozaki, unlike a lot of other anime that plastered that shy guy trope into the main character. But just like Banished from Heroes Party, I felt like the second season lost the spark from the first season, since the whole shy guy cures his social anxiety trope was 90% complete in the first season. So this goes to C tier. Chained Soldier. I'll say it straight up, this is about a guy becoming a slave for a female soldier. If that's your thing and that's what keeps you happy in bed, you'll enjoy this. But if you were like me, you went to see how well they're going to make 6 genres into one anime, you'll kind of feel nothing. I mean, it's good, but it's nothing special. Sorry, my masochist bros, this goes to the C tier. Chillin in another world with level 2 super cheap powers. Honestly, if you're tired of isekai and the whole trope surrounding it, you're gonna find better luck plunging your face into a boiling pot of water than watching this one. But if you still like to see some good romance, then I can recommend this, but just for the romance. This goes to C tier. Dahlia in Bloom, crafting a fresh start with magical tools. This is one of a few female-led isekai shows that doesn't try to make the main lead a Mary Sue. And it also has an interesting premise, but the biggest problem, the production quality of this anime is really bad. The story is gripping, but its production could be a little better. So this goes to C tier. Dandadan. This broke the charts of last year's fall anime, but in terms of romance, where does it rank? Honestly, it felt like the chemistry between the two characters was perfect. Yes, the weird otaku getting a girl's nothing new, but this time he gets a tomboy who believes in spirits. And those little moments between Momo and Ken is what makes it perfect. So this goes to A tier. Date Alive 5. Remember that show where you capture girls like Pokemon and then get them to live in the same house as you? It has 5 seasons now. I know, the show's premise feels silly and the logic flies out of the window, but they still kept it interesting during the first 3 seasons, but from the 4th one onwards, it felt like it got a downgrade. So this goes to C tier. Days with My Stepsister. Alright, you know what this show's about. I know what this show's about because both of us can read and guess it from the title. This is a guilty pleasure show, but the difference is how a majority of these shows have 90% pleasure, 10% guilt, while this has 50% guilt and 50% pleasure. The guilt comes because the two people act like robots most of the time. So this goes for the C tier. Dr. Elise, the Royal Lady with the Lamp. This is based on a web manga with a pretty good reception, but sadly the anime doesn't do it justice. The story is pretty unique and it's about a girl going through a redemption arc and deciding to save people instead of killing them. But since the anime had a lot of pacing issues, a majority of romance came off one-sided and boring. This goes to C tier. Grandma and Grandpa turn young again. The title says it all. Instead of complaining about back pain, we have old Grandpa and Grandma becoming young and deciding to live their young lives again. And that's it. Honestly, it's pretty good, but nothing special. But I still liked it, so this goes to B tier. Hokkaido gals are super adorable. Do you love gals? Then this entire show is about gals, as you can guess from the title. From the start of the anime itself, you can see this is targeted to a specific audience, and I think that's really good. Rather than trying to pick every romance anime trope in the galaxy, this picks the gal trope and gives us some perfect gals. B tier. I'll become a villainess who goes down in history. Wait, how many villainous anime do we have so far? 1 million? No, what makes this villainous anime unique is the main character. Seriously, this would have straight up gone to something like the C tier if it wasn't for the main character. This anime has the usual otame game stuff going on, but Alicia keeps it fresh. So be grateful to Alicia because this is going to B tier. Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon 5? We've come a long way from the harem dungeon anime. It still has a harem, but its action now takes the center stage. Any Danmachi fan is going to say the series is reaching its highest point over time, but I look at this from a romantic lens. So far, they're really doing justice in terms of romance, but since it's a harem and it already has 5 seasons, some girls generally get less screen time, so not an A, but a B. Kimi ni Todoke Season 3. And we're back with another OG. Kimi ni Todoke is one of the best anime of the early 2000s, and when it came back, I was genuinely hyped, and it actually delivered a great story. Now that the two are a couple, we get to see the couple issues instead of a confession issues, and everything is so wholesome, so this goes to S tier. Love is Indivisible by twins. Once again, we have a I have 2 sisters in my house, so this anime is going to be R-rated type of show here. But instead of being another domestic girlfriend show, which makes it unwatchable because of the drama, this one is completely unwatchable. I think the biggest problem is how they labeled it as a rom-com, but then filled everything with way too much drama. This goes to the F tier. Makeine, Too Many Losing Heroines. This entire anime is about friend zoning and then finding another friend to cope with it. We didn't get much development in terms of romance, even when there was a romance tag in it. But I'm not complaining. The moral of this anime is how it's not the breakups that matter, but the friends we meet along the way. A tier. Megami no Café Terrace 2nd season. You all know I love this one. Heck, when the first season aired, I thought this might be the closest contender for the quintuplets anime. If it was the first season, I would have put this in an A. But I felt like the second season added too many characters. Like, come on, another 5 girls? Really? Apart from that, it's a really good show, so this goes to B tier. Mission Yozakura Family. I know a lot of people would throw this to the C tier or something, but honestly, I love this. I'm always in for some popular girl falls for shy boy shows, but then they mixed in some assassins, comedy, and a ton of action. I was almost about to say I enjoyed enjoyed this more than Spy Family, but then this video would be very controversial, so I'll just shut up and put this in A tier. Murai In Love. Doing an original romance comedy is hard, which is why a lot of rom-coms these days feel like they have the same plot. But Murai In Love stands out. It's about a guy trying to make his teacher fall in love with him by acting like her favorite 2D character. Got a ton of gags, tons of jokes to keep you occupied. B tier. Mysterious Disappearances. This is like Dandadan 2.0, but I really think the difference between Dandadan and this is how you can relate to the former better. It's much easier to cheer for a crazy high school girl and a nerdy boy than a 28-year-old writer, but this still gave some good horror and romance vibes, so I'm gonna put this to C tier. My wife has no emotion. Meet a robot wife. And that's why she has no emotion. Falling in love with a robot isn't a new concept, but this anime did it well, because this time the guy is already living in the same house as the robot. B tier. Nina the Starry Bride. The romance here might be controversial, and that's because it's a josei anime, which is basically like a shoujo anime, but for adults. Apart from the crazy psychopath, I think I enjoyed some parts of this anime. I can't put this in the F tier because it has some beautiful art with a little engaging story, so I'm gonna put this in the C tier. No longer allowed in another world. What's better than watching Dazai from Bungo's Stray Dogs? Watching an even more depressing Dazai get kicked in an isekai world. This has the same isekai tropes you've seen multiple times, and even the two girls could get some improvement, but the main character and the comedic gags make me put this in the B tier. Pseudo Harem. What if one girl is your entire harem? Seriously, this concept's genius. There is no competition on who's best girl because there's only one girl who's best girl, and this delivered all those comedic and satirical puns at the right moment, so A tier. Ranma 1/2. Oh, now this is an old anime, but we're talking about the remaster. In terms of direction, it kept the quality of the old original while keeping it fun. The only problem is how a lot of tropes that were good in the 90s are now very cliche. But this is still an old is gold anime, so B tier. ReZero Season 3. I mean, you already know which tier I'm gonna put this in. Yes, in terms of romance, I feel like there are a lot of other romances that stand out, but ReZero compensates for it well with a written complex plot and some memorable characters. So this deserves to go for the S tier. Senpai is in a Tokonoko. So I'm not into the whole cross-dressing thing, so I only watched half of it, but from what I watched, I think it's pretty average. I mean, there's nothing for me to complain about, but there's nothing for me to love about this either. But if you're into the whole cross-dressing thing, then this is something targeted right for you. For me, it goes to C tier. Spirit Chronicles. If generic was an anime, this would be it. I know I'm recommending it in some of my isekai romance anime lists too, but in terms of writing, this could really get some improvement. Now, if this adapted the light novel accurately, this would be in the C tier. But sorry, boys and girls, this goes to the F tier. This is why a good anime adaptation really matters. Spice and Wolf Merchant meets the Wise Wolf. Oh, you know I'm a Hollow fan of the Wise Wolf. They could create a still PNG of Hollow, show it for 20 minutes, and I'd still rate it a 5 out of 5. But personal biases aside, the new adaptation is more accurate to the light novel, improves the voice acting, and improves the pacing and general direction of the show. I still like the old art style better, but this is an S tier show for me. Studio apartment, good lighting, angel included. This is about a loner getting angels to live in the same house as him. Honestly, I'd say everything from the art style, character design, to the voice acting screams the word wholesome. So if you're too depressed after watching those sad anime I kept talking about, this could be the thing. B tier. Tales of Wedding Rings. Like I've always said, this delivered what Chain Soldier promised better than Chain Soldier. The plot makes zero sense if you use the actual working brain cells in your brain, but then the fan service forces you to have zero brain cells again. It's still better than a lot of generic shows, and it delivers what it's promised. A tier. The banished former hero lives as he pleases. I've even recommended this in one of my lists, but that was only after watching the first episode, but oh my god. Who made the episodes after that? This is what happens when the whole isekai genre sets the bar so low, a 10-year-old's fan fiction is going to have much better writing than a new isekai anime. Everything about this anime is so bad. I've heard the people working at Oxford are finding a new meaning for the word bad. F tier. The Dangers in My Heart Season 2. Now, if you're a regular viewer of my channel, you know how much I love this show. This tops my charts, tops other anime charts, and completely reinvents how a romance anime should be written. Can't believe something that I thought would be cringe actually turned out to be my favorite. S tier. The Demon Prince of Momochi House. This isn't one of those can't find good, can't find bad shows, something I'd like to call generic. So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut and put this to the C tier. The do-over damsel conquers the Dragon Emperor. Apart from the main character reincarnating as a younger version of herself, this had a lot of things going for it. Sure, it's not the most original, but much better in terms of the female-led isekai we've been getting nowadays. B tier. The Duke of Death and His Maid Season 3. This is like The Dangers in My Heart. I was about to skip it because of the 3D animation, and then I watched it, and it became one of my favorite romance anime of all time. Each season kept improving, and Season 3 is the best of them all. S tier. The Fable. It's funny, and the main protagonist is funny, and the romance is funny. It isn't the peak of comedy anime, but there's a few anime that can actually add so much comedy and character chemistry into one anime. This goes to B tier. The Foolish Angel Dances with the Devil. I love this anime. It's like the perfect blend of a bad boy, good girl romance, while also keeping the plot dark when it needed to get darker. Think of it like the anime version of the TV show Lucifer. I mean, our main character is the devil, so yeah, this comes pretty close to being the Lucifer anime. And the romance is really sweet, so this goes to S tier. The magical girl and the evil lieutenant used to be arch enemies. Like I've mentioned in my videos, the author of this died before seeing her work adapted, so this serves more like an in honor of show than something that is supposed to be complete. Still, the romance and everything felt wholesome and funny, so this deserves to go to the A tier. Quintessential Quintuplets Specials 2. You know I loved quintuplets, but now that we know which girl has won, I feel like the anime's lost its spark. This is more of a pure fan service special, so I'm gonna have to put this in C tier. The Villainess Level 99. After Spirit Chronicles, this is one of the shows that grabs all the isekai tropes, doesn't do much change, and lets you view it. The romance is light, but it's there, and this time the main character is mostly expressionless, so this goes to the C tier. Tying the Knot with an Amagami Sister. We're back into harem anime, and I really enjoyed the harem anime. It brings the good old living together trope while scattering it with the usual cliche harem tropes. But at least I love the development of the story, so this goes to the B tier. Tsumasho. If you ignore the controversial age gap of the couple, I think this is supposed to be a very sad show. And I say supposed because I feel like the overall direction and writing could be improved a lot. Yeah, I felt sad at the sad moments, but there were other moments where I felt empty even though the guy on the screen was feeling sad. C tier. Unnamed Memory Act 2. This is like someone trying to make some epic fantasy anime and then getting mildly successful at it. Unnamed Memory has a lot of good elements like getting straight to the plot, building the world and history within the first few episodes, and even having some interesting characters, but it still feels like the second act was more detached from the first act more than ever. So this goes to C tier. Urusei Yatsura Season 2. Yes, the legendary romance anime that made Tsundere's popular. The remake is really good, and rather than doing anything new, it simply remasters everything with better animation. So it's like Dark Souls and then Dark Souls remastered, except I can't use Dark Souls as an example because this anime is pretty lighthearted and fun. B tier. Whisper Me a Love Song. As the only Yuri anime in this list, I feel like I should put this in an A tier or something, but sadly I felt like it didn't live up to the standards. It's good, but it had all the usual Yuri elements sticking in the first few episodes to make it feel cliche. And then the studio didn't do a really good job with the new episodes. Sorry Yuri fans, this goes to C tier for me. Yakuza Fiancé. I think this is one of the few shows to dive into the Yakuza scene and romance at the same time. Yes, this feels like 99% of Wattpad stories merged into one, but at least it's watchable and the main character is a little badass. So this goes to B tier. You Are Miss Servant. A lot of people might say this is generic, but I really enjoyed The Maid, and The Maid was nice. So just for The Maid alone, I'm gonna drop this in A tier. I mean, come on! If the title says the show's main selling point is The Maid,